Howdy folks, it's Nathan Moore here. Figured I would do another edition of Record Corner. It's been a little while. We are listening to Frank Black, his first solo album. The song is called I Heard Ramona Sing, and I was just thinking about this song the other day. I was a big Pixies fan in high school, and when the Pixies broke up, Frank Black started his solo career. This was the first album, and I remember listening to it. It didn't get me right away, but a couple years later, I was working in a coffee shop in Connecticut, and I got this song in my head. I Heard Ramona Sing. Somehow it stuck in my brain, and that's when I decided to go back and start revisiting the Frank Black catalog. So from like 2000 on, I was the only new music other than like the Strokes' first album that I was listening to is Frank Black and his band Frank Black and the Catholics. You know, my father said, he told me about the Beatles once. He said, you know, every time they would come out with a new album, it was so exciting and every album sounded so different. And I would say that that's how my experience with Frank Black albums were. These albums are all absolutely fantastic. There might be some songs on there that aren't my favorite, but all in all, these albums are absolutely great. Interesting story. When Frank Black put out his first album, I was still living on Cape Cod, and I went to high school with Frank Black's brother Dave. And Dave took us to a Frank Black show out in Western Massachusetts, opening for They Might Be Giants. And it was weird because we got lost on the way to the show, so we missed Frank Black's set. But we did go backstage and we got to talk to him, and I got to meet him. Frank Black, his real name is Charles Thompson. He's absolutely my favorite songwriter of all time. And the incarnation of that was the Pixies' Bossa Nova album. That's the album that really captivated my imagination with this surrealistic visions of, you know, the ocean and the desert. Songs like Javelina, Valoria, Anna. That album completely captivated me, and that captivation carried through to Frank Black's solo career. And as I mentioned, this is all I listened to from like 2000 to about 2008, because honestly there was no new music coming out that interests me in the least bit. I was listening to this stuff, which isn't hugely popular, but another great song from this album is Hang On to Your Ego, which is a Beach Boys song. This actually got a lot of radio play in Boston. lot of great songs on the first Frank Black album. These songs, I believe that, yeah, they were recorded with his band, The Catholics, before they had been deemed The Catholics. I think he picked some of these guys up from like Connecticut and Lyle Workman. He was a fantastic guitar player. Later, he was replaced by a guy from Boston named Rich Gilbert. Great band. The second album, Teenager of the Year, another great album. The second Frank Black album, Teenager of the Year, has one of my absolute favorite songs on here, called Khalistan. I mean, just great songwriting. The lyrics are amazing. It talks about, you know, LA and just kind of all these sort of mythical components and fragile components of LA. Khalistan, one of my favorites.
Drive down Rome Street, the radio on, tuned to the big fleet. Invisible flames, a crack in the concrete. That's just what some people say. Hey.
Another great song off of this album, I mean, there's a handful. Headache, a great pop song. I mean, the greatest pop song that Frank Black wrote since Here Comes Your Man. Headache, I remember that got a lot of radio play here in Boston in the early 90s. Great song.
Yes, wiggling time can't give it more credit. I thought about my space, and I really got it down. I got me so down, I got me a headache. My heart's crammed in my cranium.
So great. The next album, I probably won't go through all of these. I'll probably just kind of do an abridged version here, but The Cult of Ray, I think this is the third Frank Black album. This was recorded by Rick Rubin. Different sound, way more crisp, and like the band sounds like a punk rock band, like out of control. This is a great song with the fabulous Lyle Workman on lead guitar. This song is called You Ain't Me. Oh, so good. Oh, You Ain't Me. There it is. So good. So The Cult of Ray, that's a great album. This album's cool. Oddballs. I guess these are just various songs that the Catholics recorded that didn't make it onto albums. A lot of great songs on Oddballs. Great. I've talked about this one before. I might not even play it, but Frank Black and the Catholics. I got this album in like 1998 or 99. I asked for it for Christmas. Before I had this big Frank Black renaissance, I did discover this album. Oddly enough, it was the fourth Catholics album, but it was the first one that I went into the record store and it caught my eye. They recorded this album. It's just entitled Frank Black and the Catholics. They recorded this live to 2-track. I don't know exactly what that means, but I guess everything's live for the most part. You hear little tidbits of conversation in between songs and things like that. It just has a really raw feel. When I heard this album, this album just blew me away. It just sort of leapt off of the turntable or the CD player or whatever. It just had such a powerful raw sound. Like one of the greatest rock and roll records is Frank Black and the Catholics. Amazing.
Okay, right.
Check this out.
One day is the morning, another day is the afternoon lights. One day, baby, we got one day. Well, I tend to think we're going back to Rome. Back to Rome. We had a dream of what he I'm so sorry that it didn't.
Anyway, a great album, Frank Black and the Catholics. Pistolero, probably not my favorite Catholics album, but there's still some really nice songs on there. Pretty cool stuff. This might be the last album that I sort of play a segment from. Dog in the Sand. I think Rich Gilbert at this point was on board. He's from Boston, played in a bunch of bands, I think in the 80s. There was a lot more like pedal steel and organ and stuff like that. This song, The Swimmer, I mean, when I heard some of these songs, I just like wept. This song, The Swimmer, is absolutely mind-blowing. Some of the best songwriting I've ever heard in my entire life. The chords are crazy, like minor, major, like
In the wake of his chariot,
unbelievable.
he swam toward the latitudes, leaving for happier times, Florida far behind. Trying your best you were, ignoring the rescuers. You'd gone so very long, you were so very strong. The scene was so tragic, but that was the magic. Will you never drown? Will you learn to use? Some forgotten part, some forgotten part. Are you going down? Or will the
Great song. And there's a handful of fantastic songs on the Dog in the Sand album. Let's see, wrapping it up here. Black Letter Days, Some great songs on there. Chip Away Boy and California Bound are two songs that I cover. Songs I very much love. Devil's Workshop, while it doesn't have, the production isn't as, it's a little more rickety, but song for song, Devil's Workshop is nearly perfect. Every song is great. I mean, unbelievable. Great, great, great songs. And then I think this is the last Catholics album, Show Me Your Tears. Again, not my favorite Catholics album, but there's a couple songs on here like Everything Is New. My Favorite Kiss. Great, great song. Anyway, if you guys are bored of music, right? Like, I get it. But there's still some great stuff out there. And even some new stuff coming out, like the Always, who I'm always raving about. But these Catholics albums have been just a great companion for me, especially as a songwriter myself. So anyway, hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. Stay happy. God bless you all. Hope you enjoy this holiday season. Hope you're hanging out with family and just letting the love flow. And we'll see you next time for another edition of Record Corner. Peace, my friends.